Presented by Listen Headlines, latest world news from trusted sources. Latest world news from trusted sources is brought to you by Listen Headlines Daily.
RT World News. February 23, 2 o'clock America, New York. Airbnb to house 40,000 refugees. The company plans to accommodate 20,000 more refugees for free after hitting its previous goal. Airbnb announced on Tuesday that it plans to accommodate 20,000 refugees after hitting its previous goal of finding places for 21,300 asylum seekers from Afghanistan. Mirror World News. February 23, 1:41 America, New York. Ukraine soldier dies and 6 others injured after heavy shelling by Moscow-backed rebels. The Ukrainian military announced a soldier had died and 6 others were injured in a heavy shelling attack by pro-Russian separatists as Vladimir Putin called for the world to recognize Donetsk and Luhansk as independent.
WorldCBSNews.com.
February 22, 5:46 America, New York. Tonga gets internet service back 5 weeks after volcanic eruption. It mangled a large swath of the undersea cable linking the Pacific nation to the rest of the world.
New York Times World News.
February 22, 5:45 America, New York. Ukraine live updates. U.S. prepares response as Putin orders forces to separatist enclaves. Washington and its allies called the Kremlin's recognition of 2 separatist regions, and the deployment of Russian troops there, a blunt defiance of international law that risks war. Yevgenia Beduk, 35, preparing her son Alexander, 2, to depart on the slow train from Severodonetsk to Kiev the morning after President Vladimir V.
New York Times World News.
February 22, 5:36 America, New York. Putin calls Ukrainian statehood a fiction. History suggests otherwise. In a speech, President Vladimir V. Putin bent Ukraine's complex history into his own version that served as a justification for his cleaving off more of its territory. People in Odessa on Sunday commemorated protesters killed in 2014 by paramilitary police forces in Kiev, Ukraine.
New York Times World News.
February 22, 5:34 America, New York. COVID live updates. Hawaii and Puerto Rico will soon be mask mandate outliers. As the United States nears its 3rd year of the pandemic, indoor mask mandates have expired, or are set to be lifted, in most of the country.
Washington Post World.
February 22, 5:25 America, New York. Germany indicts arms control breach suspect over Russia sale. German prosecutors say they have indicted a businessman on suspicion of breaking arms control laws by helping Russia purchase sophisticated machinery that could be used to make chemical weapons.
RT World News.
February 22, 5:09 America, New York. Hamsters' testicles shrink with COVID-19 study. Researchers said the animal's reproductive organs reduced in both size and weight. Researchers have found that COVID-19 infection in hamsters causes several unwanted effects on their reproductive organs.
Washington Post World.
February 22, 4:54 America, New York. Trudeau's emergency powers upheld in Canada's House amid worries Freedom Convoy could return. The state of emergency is not over, the Prime Minister said, as there continue to be real concerns over new demonstrations cropping up.
Washington Post World.
February 22, 4:26 America, New York. Libya's embattled PM says replacing him could trigger war. Libya's embattled Prime Minister is warning that the appointment of a new interim government could set off war and chaos in a Mediterranean country already mired in a decade of turmoil.
BBC News World.
February 22, 4:25 America, New York. Tonga volcano. Internet restored 5 weeks after eruption. The Pacific island nation was cut off from the world for weeks after an undersea volcano erupted.
Washington Post World.
February 22, 4:22 America, New York. West trains Africa forces as coastal nations fret attacks. At a training site in Ivory Coast, a Ghanaian officer says he has watched neighboring countries be overrun by jihadis for nearly 10 years, wondering if his country will be next.
RT World News.
February 22, 4:11 America, New York. China rebukes U.S. over containment strategy. Bilateral ties cannot be defined by competition. Beijing says U.S. plans for Southeast Asia puts it on a path for confrontation with Beijing. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi told his American counterpart Antony Blinken in a phone call on Tuesday.
RT World News.
February 22. 3:48 America New York, Kyle Rittenhouse crowdfunds lawsuits against media. Acquitted Kenosha shooter says he wants to hold people accountable for smearing him. An Illinois teenager who gained national prominence in the U.S. over his trial for his use of a firearm against protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin, said he was crowdfunding a legal campaign against people he claims have smeared him.
Time.
February 22. 3:41 America New York, unacceptable. World leaders condemn Russia's actions in Ukraine. Tokyo. World leaders scrambled Tuesday to condemn Russian President Vladimir Putin, and to signal possible sanctions, after he ordered his forces into separatist regions of eastern Ukraine.
RT World News.
February 22. 3:29 America New York, humans getting too emotionally attached to robot coworkers, study. U.S. and Korean researchers say an excessively strong bond between a human employee and a robot is bad for business.
RT World News.
February 22. 3:01 America New York, as a former MEP, I know how much the EU has destabilized Ukraine. In 2014, I argued that the EU's move eastward was provocative and foolish. Time has proven me right. 8 years ago, a democratically elected president was removed from office by protesters waving European Union flags.
New York Times World News.
February 22. 3 o'clock America New York, the coronavirus menagerie. With the virus widespread in white-tailed deer, scientists wonder which animals might be next.
Washington Post World.
February 22. 2:54 America New York, China walks tightrope between Russia and the West over Ukraine situation. China wants Russia's backing in its own disputes with the United States, but non-interference in other nations' sovereignty is one of its core foreign policy principles.
Mirror World News.
February 22. 2:49 America New York, Russia-Ukraine war live. Invasion has begun, as Putin's tanks cross border. Tanks have been sent into the breakaway Ukrainian regions of Donetsk and the so-called Luhansk People's Republic after Russian President Vladimir Putin recognized the regions in a televised address.
Fox World News.
February 22. 2:33 America New York, Freedom Convoy protesters describe interactions with police, it got really bad. Freedom Convoy protesters describe interactions with Ottawa police as law enforcement broke up the demonstration.